I was elbow-deep in grease, my hands stained from working on the truck when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting a spam email or a random notification, but the screen flashed with Rachel's name. I hadn't heard from her in days, not since the last fight. My stomach twisted when I saw the message. Moving out. I'm with Jared now. Good luck paying for the house. I read it once, then again. My fingers gripped the phone so tight my knuckles went white. The words were so simple, so casual, like she was telling me about a change of plans. But it hit me like a punch to the gut. We'd been on the rocks for a while, yeah. She'd been pulling away, and I'd seen the signs, but this? It wasn't supposed to end like this. I wasn't shocked, though. Not really. I'd been waiting for it. A part of me had known this was coming, even if I didn't want to admit it. But that didn't make it hurt any less. I sat there for a moment, staring at the message, not sure what to do. My mind was blank. I felt numb, but underneath, something was burning. A mix of anger and disbelief. But it wasn't the kind of anger that makes you act on impulse. No, it was the kind of anger that makes you cold, calm. I didn't have to decide anything in the moment. I set the phone down on the workbench and wiped my hands on a rag. Then I just sat there, letting the weight of the words settle in. The house was the least of it. She was with Jared. That was the real punch. I left the phone on the workbench and walked over to the corner where I'd hidden the camera. I'd installed it a few months ago, when things had started feeling off, when I began noticing Rachel staying out late more often, her phone buzzing with messages she'd quickly hide or ignore. Small things I'd brushed off as nothing, trying to convince myself that it was all in my head. But now, looking back, it all added up. The late nights, the distance, the way she started locking her phone whenever I walked by. I pulled up the footage from 2 weeks ago, the timestamp flashing on the screen. There she was, Rachel, and Jared. She didn't even try to hide it. She led him right into the house, her back to the camera, her hand on the door handle like it was any other night. He didn't look nervous, didn't hesitate. He was already comfortable in my house. My stomach turned, but it wasn't from the shock of seeing it. No, I'd already known. This was just the proof, the confirmation. I watched the clip twice, then 3 times and felt nothing. No anger, no desire to confront her right then and there. Instead, there was a shift inside me. Something had clicked. I wasn't the guy who was going to get caught up in the emotions of it. This was what she wanted, fine. But I wasn't going to lose myself in the fallout. I was already steps ahead. I paused the video, then stood up, taking a long breath. My mind started working, putting pieces into place. I didn't need to play her game. I didn't need to scream or shout or beg for answers. That was all noise. I'd already started preparing, months ago, and I wasn't about to let it all slip away. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the financials. I had been quietly moving things into my name for the past couple of weeks. Transferring accounts, securing funds, making sure I was insulated from any surprise moves she might try. I wasn't going to let her drain the house dry while I stood around waiting for an apology that would never come. I checked the house deed, still in my name. I wasn't going to lose the house, and I wasn't going to let her have it either. My grip on the phone tightened as I scrolled. The legal stuff came next. I called a lawyer, one who wasn't going to let her get away with this. I didn't need to confront Rachel about what I knew yet. I didn't need to make it into a scene. I needed to make sure I had everything lined up before she even realized what was happening. She wouldn't see this coming, and that gave me an edge. As I set the phone down and started pulling up more documents, I couldn't shake the feeling of being calm. Not relieved. Not happy. Just calm. It was like the chaos of the last few months had drained out of me. No more second-guessing, no more waiting for her to change. It was over. It had been over. Now, it was just a matter of watching the rest of it fall into place. The phone buzzed again. Rachel. I looked at the screen, then hit ignore. I didn't need to hear her voice right now. I already knew what she'd say. I sat down at my desk and opened the laptop, feeling a strange clarity. The next step was simple. I started transferring money from joint accounts into my own. It wasn't anything massive yet, just enough to make sure I had control. Rachel had been spending without my knowledge, and I wasn't going to let her keep draining everything for her new life. I didn't need to ask her permission anymore. This was my move and I was making it. I froze access to our bank accounts, making sure her card wouldn't work. I'd been keeping an eye on the transactions for a while. Nothing big at first, small charges here and there. But I wasn't about to let her take what wasn't hers. I made sure every cent went to where I needed it to. She didn't get to use this against me. The house deed was in my name. I double-checked the paperwork to make sure everything was locked down. If Rachel thought she could just walk away with everything, she was wrong. I started playing defense a while ago, but now I was taking control of it all. I couldn't remember the last time I felt this level of calm. It wasn't anger or revenge, even though I had every right to feel that way. No, it was freedom. Freedom from the chaos, from the constant mind games she played. The mess she left behind didn't matter anymore. It was like a weight I didn't even know I was carrying had been lifted. For the first time in a long while, I felt in charge. The phone buzzed again, Rachel. I glanced at it and let it ring out. I wasn't going to get sucked back into whatever she wanted to say. I didn't need to hear her excuses, her manipulation. She could call all she wanted, but I wasn't picking up. Another call, then another. She was relentless. I let them go straight to voicemail. I sat back, listening to her leave messages that I didn't bother to check. What was the point? She'd have to deal with this on her own now. She'd made her choices and I'd made mine. There was no room for bargaining or fixing things. This wasn't a game anymore. The minutes stretched on, and I clicked through some more paperwork, reviewing everything I'd set up. I didn't want to miss anything. I had to stay ahead. When the phone rang for the 5th time, I finally grabbed it. I didn't say anything right away, just let her listen to the silence. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice cracking like she was caught in some kind of whirlwind. I wasn't in a hurry to respond. "What do you mean? You're locking me out of everything. I can't get into the accounts, I can't access anything. You can't just take everything." I took a breath, holding my ground. "You made your choice, Rachel. You're with Jared now. You don't get to play both sides." There was a beat of silence on the other end. Then her voice came back, shaking. "You're being unreasonable. We can work this out, can't we? You're not just going to ruin everything, are you?" I let the question hang in the air for a moment. What's left to work out? She started talking over me, panicking. But I didn't care. I didn't let her words land. I wasn't interested in her pleading. Not anymore. I hung up before she could say anything else. I felt nothing as I set the phone down. Not anger, not regret. Just the calm that had settled in me. The sense that I was finally making moves for myself. Rachel wasn't my problem anymore. I'd made sure of that. The knock on the door came early the next morning, sharp and quick, like she couldn't wait another minute. I knew exactly who it was before I even stood up. I walked to the door, opened it without hesitation, and there she was, Rachel, standing in the same clothes she'd left in. Her eyes darted around, like she was trying to make sure I hadn't done something drastic overnight. She stepped forward before I even said a word, pushing past me into the hallway without waiting for permission. "Why the hell have you locked me out of everything?" Her voice was louder than usual, frantic, like she was losing control. "You can't just freeze the accounts and change the locks." I didn't flinch. I just stood there in the doorway watching her walk past me, a part of me almost impressed by her gall. She tried to act like she was still in charge of the situation, but I wasn't buying it. "Not anymore. I haven't locked you out of anything," I said calmly. "You're free to leave whenever you want." She stopped, whipping around to face me. Her face twisted with a mixture of anger and panic. "Don't be like this, okay? This isn't about you. This is about us. You're being paranoid. You can't just shut me out." I folded my arms, leaning against the doorframe. "It's not paranoia, Rachel. It's called protecting myself." She paced around the room now, her eyes darting to the locked cabinets and the secured files I'd made sure she couldn't access. She was like a caged animal, restless, looking for a way to slip past me. "You don't understand," she muttered. "You're just pushing me away. I can't live like this." "Then you should have thought about that before you moved in with Jared," I said, My tone even no anger in it, just truth. Her eyes froze, a flicker of panic crossing her face. I could see it. A brief flash of guilt or maybe fear, before she masked it with another lie. Jared? What are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about. I stepped forward, keeping my voice steady. 2 weeks ago, I saw you bring him into the house. I saw you both on the camera. Her mouth opened, then closed, like she couldn't find the right words. Then she took a deep breath, her face pulling into a mask of deflection. You don't understand. It's not what you think, okay? It's complicated. I shook my head, not letting her derail this. No, Rachel. It's pretty simple. You left. You're with him now. And you want me to play along like I don't know the truth? She opened her mouth to speak again, but I cut her off, my voice sharp. You made your choice, so don't come in here acting like you're the victim. She stood there, for the first time looking lost, unsure of her next move. Then she softened her tone, almost pleading. We can fix this. We can work things out. She stopped herself, catching the desperation in her own voice. Just take me back. Let's fix this. We can make it work. I promise. I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in days. The woman who'd walked out, the woman who was now begging for another shot, wasn't the person I thought she was. She wasn't the person I'd been holding on to. I took a breath, keeping my voice steady, firm. I'm not fixing this, Rachel. It's done. You made your choices. She took a step forward, reaching out, but I didn't move. Please, she whispered, like she was trying to bargain with me, to make me feel something, anything. Don't, I said, the word cutting through her like a knife. I'm not your backup plan, and I'm not your fool anymore. Her face twisted in frustration. You don't get it, do you? I need you. I need you to fix this. I raised my hand, silencing her. No, you don't need me. You've already got Jared, right? She stammered, but nothing she said could undo what had already happened. I wasn't interested in her excuses anymore, not in the we can make it work talk, not in the manipulative sob story she was trying to sell me. I had listened to all of that for far too long. She took a few steps back, her shoulders slumped, but I didn't feel bad for her. She had her chance. I never wanted this to happen, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. But it was too little, too late. Yeah, well, you should have thought about that before you started with Jared. I gave her one last look. I'm done, Rachel. Her eyes flickered between anger and something else. Regret. Maybe. But she didn't say anything else. She just turned, heading for the door without a word. I watched her go, the weight of the silence pressing down on me, but not in a bad way. It was final. It was over. I closed the door behind her, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a real sense of peace. I was done. The next day, I woke up to the familiar ping of notifications, my phone buzzing with alerts I had no intention of checking. I'd already known what was coming. Rachel had posted something on Facebook. I grabbed my coffee and opened the app, not in a hurry but out of curiosity. There it was, a vague status that made my stomach turn in a way I wasn't expecting. Sometimes the truth isn't what you think it is. People change. You can only do so much. I'll always love you, but I can't keep living this lie. No names, no specifics, just enough to paint me as the villain without actually saying it. She was trying to control the narrative, to play the victim. She was framing herself as the one who got hurt, the one who had no choice. I knew exactly what she was doing. She wanted people to feel sorry for her, to think I was the one who pushed her into Jared's arms. Comments started flooding in almost immediately. Friends of hers, old family acquaintances, people who had no clue what was really going on. They were all rallying behind her, offering their sympathy. You're so strong, Rachel. You deserve better than that. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. I let the comments pile up, one after another, but I didn't respond. Not a word. I just sat back, letting them think whatever they wanted, letting her twist the story in her favor. She hated that I wasn't engaging, but that's exactly why I wasn't. I didn't need to argue with a crowd of people who had no idea what really happened. I had already seen through her games, and this was just another move in her playbook. Rachel kept checking my profile, probably waiting for me to lash out, to make her the center of attention. But I wasn't interested in feeding into it. I knew the truth, and so did my lawyer. That was enough. I spent the rest of the morning making sure all my legal bases were covered. I'd already contacted a lawyer before all this went down, but now it was time to move forward. I needed everything locked in. Divorce papers, custody arrangements if it came to that, property division. I didn't want anything hanging over me once this all played out. I sat down at my desk, scrolling through more paperwork. Every document I looked at made me feel more in control. The court papers were already being drafted. The more I sat back and let things happen, the more power I felt slipping into my hands. This was my game now. Rachel had played hers, but she was losing grip on the rules. She tried calling me again that afternoon, but I let it ring out. Another voicemail. Another attempt to get me to explain myself, to defend myself. I didn't need to. The law would handle it. I didn't owe her any more explanations. Then came the message. Why aren't you responding? You've made your point, haven't you? Do you think I'm the only one suffering here? I read it, then tossed my phone onto the couch without responding. I didn't need to keep feeding into her desperate need for validation. The more she chased, the more desperate she looked. And that was power in itself. As the day went on, I could almost feel her frustration growing. Her plan was unraveling piece by piece. Her lies weren't going to hold up under scrutiny, and soon enough, everyone who sided with her would see that. The truth was on my side, and I wasn't about to let her manipulate me into believing otherwise. It was a strange thing, watching her try to manipulate a situation that was already slipping out of her control. She thought she could humiliate me publicly, get sympathy, and walk away with the upper hand. But she was wrong. She wasn't in charge anymore. I looked at the court documents again, confirming everything was on track. My lawyer was already handling things on the back end, making sure there were no surprises. I didn't need to rush this. I just needed to sit back and let the facts unfold. Rachel was losing. Slowly but surely she was losing, and I wasn't going to stop it. This was how it needed to end. It was late in the afternoon when I saw her again. Rachel, standing at the edge of the driveway, looking up at the house like it was still hers. I watched her for a moment from the window, not bothering to make a move. It wasn't the first time she'd come by since everything blew up, but this time it was different. She wasn't here to talk. She was here for something else. I grabbed my coffee, slowly took a sip, and kept watching. She started walking toward the side of the house, her head low, her eyes scanning the yard like she was looking for something. I'd been expecting this, so I didn't panic. I had cameras everywhere now, every angle, every door, every corner. I made sure of it. She didn't know it, but she was being recorded. I watched her make her way to the back, where I had the gate locked. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. Her fingers brushed the latch, testing it, seeing if I'd left it open. I could almost hear her thoughts. Maybe he forgot to lock this. Maybe I can slip back in, pretend everything's the way it used to be. She reached for the gate, yanked at it, then shook her head when it didn't budge. I could see the frustration starting to set in. She was acting like she still owned the place. I stayed inside, didn't make a sound. She'd made her choice, and now she was trying to take back control. I wasn't going to let her. Not like this. She circled the backyard, her eyes flicking between the back door and the windows, checking for any possible way in. I knew what she was thinking. If she could get inside, maybe she could claim the space, get some leverage. But she was only wasting her time. I already had everything locked down. I watched her try the back door next. She was trying to force it open, acting like she didn't care if I caught her. She was getting desperate now. I knew what she wanted: access. She wanted to feel like she was still part of this house, still part of my life. She probably thought if she could just get inside, I'd let her back in, let her take control again. She tugged on the door handle again, then gave up, her frustration growing as she turned away and walked back to the side of the house. I leaned back, relaxed, watching her every move. I didn't need to stop her. I didn't need to confront her. She was digging her own hole, and I was more than happy to let her. I picked up my phone and checked the camera feed. There she was, still pacing around the yard. She hadn't noticed the cameras yet, but I had the footage on lock. Every step she took, every move she made was being recorded. And when the time came, I'd have it all to back me up. She walked to the front door next, tapping on it softly like she was trying to be subtle, like she still had any right to be here. I knew what she was doing. She wasn't just trying to talk. She was trying to break back in. I let her play her game. She knocked a few more times, then stood there for a second, probably waiting for me to open the door. But I didn't. I didn't move. I didn't respond. If she thought she was going to get me to react, she was wrong. I watched her leave. Her shoulders slumped as she walked back down the driveway. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. I knew what she was doing, and I knew what I was doing. It was over. I went back to my paperwork, checking the legal documents one more time. Everything was in order. Her attempts to manipulate me were failing. And as for the house, it was still mine. It always had been. Rachel wasn't going to get back in. Not now, not ever. And when the time came, I'd have the evidence to make sure she couldn't take anything from me. The day of the court hearing came faster than I expected. I didn't feel the usual anxiety I thought I might. It was more like an odd sense of calm. I knew what I had to do. I knew I'd prepared for this moment more than she ever could have. When I walked into the courtroom, Rachel was already there, sitting with her lawyer, Jared's friend, who I'd been expecting to see. Her face was drawn, tired, like she hadn't slept in days. She looked like she was playing the role of the wrong spouse, and I wasn't surprised. It was exactly what I expected her to do. She wasn't going to take responsibility for any of this. No, she'd make me the villain, paint herself as the victim just like she had on Facebook. Her lawyer stood up when the judge walked in, smooth-talking, trying to put on that emotional appeal. He talked about how Rachel had been through so much, how she was heartbroken, and how I had left her with nothing. I wasn't even paying attention to him. He was just saying the usual things, textbook tactics designed to make me look like the bad guy. But that's when my lawyer stood up, calm and collected. She didn't need to waste time with emotional rhetoric. She just went straight to the facts. She handed over the evidence, photos, texts, the footage of Rachel and Jared coming into the house, and the financial statements that showed how Rachel had been siphoning off money without my consent. The illegal entries, the way she tried to break back into the house. Every piece of evidence I had gathered over the last few months, everything I had painstakingly put together, was now in front of the court. I watched Rachel's face as she scanned through the documents. Her jaw tightened, her eyes flicking back and forth between her lawyer and the evidence in front of her. She was trying to keep it together, but I could see the panic creeping in. Her hand shook slightly as she held one of the pages, and for the first time, she didn't look so confident. She looked small, vulnerable. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I wasn't there to scream or fight. The facts were speaking for me, and Rachel's lawyer was starting to lose his footing. The emotional argument was fading, replaced with the cold, hard truth of what had actually happened. When Rachel's lawyer tried to argue that the footage was inadmissible, my lawyer quickly shot it down. The camera had been legally installed, and everything I had documented was within the bounds of the law. Rachel had no way to spin that. I looked at her as she sat there, her eyes darting around, looking for some way to salvage the situation. I could see the wheels turning in her head, trying to come up with a last-ditch defense. But there was nothing left for her to say. The judge didn't even hesitate. He ruled in my favor, and the words landed like a weight lifting off my chest. The settlement was mine. The house was mine. The money she tried to steal, I was getting back. It was over. I stood up, feeling the relief wash over me, but I kept my composure. I didn't want to show her any satisfaction. I didn't need to. I wasn't just walking out of this courtroom with a victory. I was walking out free. Free from her manipulation. Free from the lies. I saw Rachel's face drop as the judge's gavel came down. She was stunned, frozen for a moment before she turned to her lawyer, her words coming out in a rush, like she was trying to explain, trying to make sense of it all. But it was too late. There was nothing left for her to say. I walked out of the courtroom, and the feeling of justice was better than I could have imagined. I wasn't angry. I wasn't filled with rage. I was just relieved. It felt like a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying had been lifted. I wasn't going to have to keep looking over my shoulder anymore. I wasn't going to have to second-guess everything I'd thought I knew. I didn't care what Rachel thought anymore. The truth had been laid out, and that was the only thing that mattered. The call came the next morning. I had just finished my coffee when my phone buzzed, and I saw my boss's name on the screen. I wasn't expecting it, but I answered anyway. "Hey, what's up?" I said, trying to sound casual, even though a knot had already started to form in my stomach. "Hey, we need to talk," my boss said, his tone serious. "I've been getting some phone calls from Rachel." My heart sank, but I didn't let it show. "What's she saying?" "She's been telling people that you're unstable, that you're not handling things well after the divorce. She's even claiming you're a danger to the workplace." The words hit like a punch. Couldn't believe it. Rachel trying to sabotage my career? I had been expecting a lot of things from her. But this was next level. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "She's lying. You know me. I'm not the one who's out of control here." "I know that," he said, cutting me off. "But I need proof, man. She's saying some pretty serious things." I didn't hesitate. I already had everything I needed. "I'll send you everything," I told him, and without waiting, I grabbed my laptop and started pulling up the emails, the messages, and the texts Rachel had sent me. The ones where she tried to manipulate me, the ones where she'd threatened me with vague accusations. I even had the voicemail from the other day, where she subtly hinted that I was mentally unstable. Took me a few minutes, but I had it all compiled. Every message, every attempt to damage my reputation. I didn't just send it to him. I forwarded it all to myself too, for my own records. When I hit send, I leaned back in my chair, letting out a long breath. "This is what I've been dealing with," I said, finally allowing myself to show some of the frustration that had been building. "I've been trying to handle things quietly, but she's not letting it go." My boss was quiet for a moment, then spoke up again. "I know you've been under a lot of stress, but I'm standing by you on this. I'll take care of it on my end. Don't worry about that." I didn't know what to say at first. I wasn't expecting that. I thought there was a chance he'd doubt me, but he didn't. And for the first time in a while, I felt like I wasn't alone in this fight. "Thanks," I said, the words feeling heavier than usual. "I appreciate it." We hung up, and I sat there for a minute, letting everything settle. I wasn't the one losing control here. Rachel thought she could use my job as leverage, that she could break me by attacking where it would hurt the most. But she had underestimated me. Again, I wasn't done yet. I called my lawyer after that, feeling a new surge of determination. I need to file another claim. This time it's about Rachel trying to sabotage my career. She didn't waste any time. "We've got everything we need to move forward," she said. "I'll have the paperwork ready." I hung up and let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Rachel had made a huge mistake, one that was only going to make things worse for her. She was still playing her games, but now she was trying to mess with the wrong part of my life. I'd taken control of the house, the finances, and now I was going after this too. Everything she had done to try and tear me down. She was going to have to answer for it. I wasn't going to lose this. Not now. Not ever. It was a few days after everything had been settled, and I heard the knock. I knew exactly who it was before I even opened the door. Rachel stood there, her face pale, eyes red like she hadn't been sleeping. She didn't have to say anything. She was here to collect her things, and I was just waiting for it to happen. I stepped aside and let her in. She didn't look at me, didn't even try to make eye contact. She just walked past, heading for the living room. The boxes I'd packed for her were sitting by the door. She didn't say anything for a long time, just started filling the boxes with whatever she could find. I stood by, arms crossed, watching her. The whole scene felt surreal. The house that had once been ours, our home, was now just a place she was trying to leave behind. When she was halfway done, She stopped and looked at me. Was any of it real? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer her. I didn't need to. I wasn't here to have that conversation. I wasn't here to fix anything. I just handed her the last box. Take it. It's over. She hesitated for a moment, like she wanted me to say something more. But I wasn't going to. Not anymore. She could ask all the questions she wanted, but I wasn't going to give her the answers she was looking for. I wasn't the man she thought I was, and I wasn't the man she wanted me to be. She walked out with the boxes in her arms, her head low, no words left between us. The front door closed behind her with a soft click. The silence in the house felt final, complete. It felt empty, but in a way it was a good kind of emptiness. I had the space to breathe. I had the space to finally start over. I turned to head back to my desk, and that's when the letter from my lawyer arrived. I recognized the envelope right away, thick and official looking. I opened it without hesitation. Rachel's final settlement offer, a check for $1. I laughed under my breath, shaking my head. It was everything I needed. The check was the perfect symbol of where she stood in my life now. Nothing. She thought she could play me, thought she could get away with all the lies and manipulation. But in the end, that dollar was all she was worth to me. I took the check, folded it neatly, and slid it into the drawer with the other documents. Then I sat back in my chair, exhaling slowly. I didn't feel relief or joy. I just felt done. The house was mine again. My life was mine again. And for the first time in a long time, I was free.